The question is that the document be noted, and I call the member for Braddon.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. And I recognise and I appreciate the comments made by the previous Speaker, the member for Spence, and the list of names that he read that represent their respective electorates, their respective states and the veteran community, I think is an impressive list. I think that each and every one of those people that you read on that list takes it upon their shoulders to do the right thing, and they genuinely believe across all sides of the parliament in their cause and in the betterment of the outcomes for our veteran community. So thank you. Deputy Speaker, in relation to the interim finding in the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide, I reflect on not only the contents but also the recommendations. I reflect on a number of things as I go through that document. First of all, I reflect, as I said, on the findings and the outcomes, the tangible things that are put in front of government that they can implement in order to rectify the issues highlighted by the Royal Commission. But in doing so, I also reflect on the lived experience and the relived trauma that each and every person that gave evidence to that Royal Commission, including the Royal Commission itself, it would have taken them back to hell and back. And I want to formally acknowledge that in this place and extend the support measures that are so absolutely necessary in these times of such reflection. I want to encourage those that have had to relive those experiences that if they do, if they think or if they know of anybody that has been involved in such evidence and is having difficulty, then to reach out to the respective contact numbers that have been provided by that Royal Commission. Deputy Speaker, as well as reflecting on the Royal Commission, I reflect on my own service. My service went over 2 decades, 20 years, in which, the previous member, a couple back, the member for Riverina, spoke about Wagga Wagga as our recruit training establishment. I spent 8.5 years of my life there as a corporal, as a sergeant and as a warrant officer. And it was there that I took those young men and women off the bus, those young men and women that had worked the moral courage and agonised for hours and hours in their own time to finally put their hand up and to go into a recruiting office and to offer to give their life in the service of their country. Now that, in some cases, was a naive obligation. They didn't know what they didn't know. But I reminded them of that as soon as they got to the 1st Recruit Training Battalion, the Army Recruit Training Centre, and it's there that that transformation took place. Now, these are some of our best people, some of our finest Australians, some of our most dedicated and service-driven young people. And all they want to do is the right thing for their country. Me as an instructor, I've got to turn that raw service into a capability that will seek out and close with an enemy in a foreign country or on Australian soil, to kill or capture an enemy, and then to live with that, to put your life in another man's hands and expect him to do the same for you. The question often is posed, why do soldiers do that? And the answer is simple. It's because the person on your right or left would give their life for you. Now that bond, that transformation, that change of that young person I talked about earlier, that young person that we got off the bus, is an incredible change that we can't undo. You can't untrain somebody. You can't unsee the things that we see in defence. I've served on operational service and I've taken young men and women into active service. And the responsibility of rank, when you as an individual put those soldiers that you have under your command in harm's way and they are harmed, then you wear that as an individual. You wear that as a leader. And this is not spoken about anywhere in this report. But I want to recognise that today, and I want to recognise the fact that our leaders in our military, that burden of guilt that you have, that burden of guilt that never goes away, when you're standing there at a military funeral and you're holding a salute as they lower a casket into the hole, and you look on the bearers, the look on the mates, the look on those in the unit, the look never goes away. I close my eyes now, I can see it in my own mind's eye, and that'll never leave me. I've obviously learnt to live with that, but it won't go away. And I don't want people to think, I don't want the average person in lounge rooms across Australia today to think this interim finding of this Royal Commission is going to fix everything, because it won't. It is a start. It puts us on a path. It recognises the fault. And in the military, we've got a very simple way of identifying faults and correcting them. We identify the fault, we identify the soldier, and we correct the fault. We continue the practice of the operation. And that's exactly when we need to get back here. The point I make, what I'm trying to say, is that all the emotion, all the fluff, all the retrospectivity needs to come back to the outcomes. And everything needs to be an outcome-driven exercise when it comes to this. Now, I fought in the state of Tasmania to have money put into a Northwest Veterans Hub. A bloke I served with, he was a bomb technician. His name's Dr. Andrew Clark. He's helped me with that. He's a general practitioner. And we've set up a wellness centre that treats many of our veterans. And I shouldn't say the word treat. I felt guilty as soon as I said that word. It's not treat. It's work with. It's be there for them. It's not treat. So I take that back and I correct that. But in saying that, I think I'm getting the point across that the language that we use is so important. The positivity that we need is so important. The time for pity parties is gone with this Northwest Veterans Hub. We make veterans, we highlight to them that you need to get off the couch and you need to do something for yourself, and we're here to support you. We will wrap as much support around you as possible. We will not rest until your problem is fixed, and we'll always be there. And this is what they need. This is what our veteran community needs. They don't need pity. Please, I implore people right across the country, don't feel sorry for our veterans. You should look up to them, because they've done nothing but the right thing. And along the way, they've suffered a few issues that need our support wrapped around them. And that's the attitude that I want to have, a positive attitude, a progressive and outcome-driven attitude, an attitude where, I mean, I've said in this place before, I suffer from the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm treated, I have a tablet every day for it. And I don't say that for pity, Deputy Speaker. I say that to let all veterans know that you can have this thing, you can seek help, support's there, and people wrap their arms around me and help me. And now I'm operating at a reasonably high level here in Federal Parliament. Thanks very much. But the point I make is you can be whatever you want to. It doesn't preclude you from going on with a normal life. It doesn't stop you from looking after your families. And that word family, I think, isn't said enough. I don't think we've covered that enough. The family, as we look at the military, it is a big family. It's a tribe, and we're connected. And I talked about that. I talked about the connection that we have to that big family. But when you leave that family, then that feeling of separation, of you've lost your tribe, I think is the start. I think that our real family, our spouse, our children, our wider family, I think that family unit is going to play an important part in the transformation of the veteran from the big military family to their new family, which is civilian life, and a way forward. I don't think we concentrate on that enough. And it should be at the epicentre. It should underpin everything we do as far as support measures are concerned. Family-centric treatment. For our acutely affected veterans, I want to see a place where we can take the whole family. Those kids need to know why mum or dad feels the way that they do. Those kids are affected by that trauma. And we need to make sure that we wrap our support measures around them as well. So to rehash, I welcome the findings of the Royal Commission. I've always supported this. It's the only line in the sand that we can draw. But we need to remain firmly fixated on the target, and our target should be outcome-driven. And I want to thank everybody that's spoken today, everybody that's supported this cause, and I want to thank the brave men and women of our Defence Force and our veteran community. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The question is that the document be noted, and I call the member for Kingsford Smith.
Thanks, Speaker, and I'm pleased to follow the member for Braddon and thank him for his service to our nation in his work to improve the lives of veterans. I was fortunate to attend a Veterans Forum in Burnie in the great state of Tasmania a few weeks ago with the member for Braddon and see the great work that he's doing supporting veterans.